Energy TV. Welcome to the show today. What I want to know is, what is the Starchild Skull? If you haven't heard about it, you're in for a treat today. We'll be talking to Melanie Young about this enigmatic cranium that seems to defy classification. While mainstream science has stepped away from it because it doesn't fit into known anatomical criteria, Melanie and the late Lloyd Pye have embraced the skull, seeking to unravel its mysteries. Melanie Young is the co-founder of the Starchild Project with Lloyd Pye in 1999. After she was given this unusual skull, later dubbed the Starchild Skull, from a private collection. As a neonatal nurse, Melanie recognized that it was not a common deformity and felt it deserved scientific investigation. Melanie has appeared in documentaries such as National Geographic's Ancient Astronauts and continues to lecture and radio interview about the Starchild Skull. Her webpage is starchildproject.com. Please welcome Melanie Young. Hi, Melanie. How are you?
I'm doing great, Rita. How are you?
I am wonderful, and I just feel blessed to have you on the show. I've always wanted to do an interview about the Starchild Skull, and I'm so glad that finally we're making this connect. And as we said off air, which is, I think, is even cooler, you happen to have the skull with you in house. So everybody, we're getting show and tell today. Yes. But for those people that aren't familiar with the Starchild Skull, what is it? What drew it to you? Or the other way around?
Yeah, how did I get it?
Well, that's the second question. But
okay.
Yeah.
It is a human-like skull. It's still real bone, and it's totally deformed, like something I've never ever seen. So because of that, I know it at least is a history project. And my thought when I first saw it was, this is so weird and so crazy, but yet this thing lived long enough for the cranium to be put together, and the fontanelles or the soft spots to go away, and it had teeth. So with all of these different anomalies, I wanted to know what it was, but my first thought was, if all of this is right and this thing lived, what could it teach us medically, and what could we learn from it to help prevent some of the birth defects and the diseases that we find in our body. So to me, it was never about proving that it's a different species. It's always been about the medical applications.
Okay, that makes sense. And so as a neonatal nurse, I guess you have experienced children being born with birth defects.
Being here on the border and at a county facility and a teaching facility, I had access to lots of different books, doctors, and I saw multiple deformities, almost every one that's in the book, from cyclopses, kids born with one eye, kids born with 3 legs, kids born with 2 kidneys, 3 livers, weird stuff. So I knew that this was outside of even that realm, and so it had to be researched for just that purpose. So that's kind of where I wanted to go, and did not know how to go there.
So how did you hook up with Lloyd Pye?
Well, it was really strange. I didn't know where to go with it, but I knew MUFON was a scientific organization that looked into weird stuff. So I took it to the local MUFON group, and I said, look at this. We were in the parking lot because I didn't even want to bring it in. So we were in the parking lot. I was talking with 2 of the leaders, and I said, I don't know what to do with this. And they said, well, we've got the person for you. They were bringing in Lloyd Pye the next month for a lecture, and he had just come out with his book, Everything You Know Is Wrong. So he was going around the circuit talking about that book. So when he came to El Paso, we met him before his lecture in the Holiday Inn lobby. And the group of us were sitting underneath this umbrella inside the lobby, all with our hats on, our hoodies on, so we couldn't be seen. And I handed Lloyd this cardboard box, which is the box I got him in. And I said, here you go. And the first thing he did was dropped his jaw. It took him about 20 seconds to recover, and then he took it out of the box and started looking at it. And I says, I don't know what it is, and I don't know what to do with it. And he said, well, this is not my area of expertise because I'm more into hominoids and Bigfoot and Sasquatch, that kind of thing. He said, but I know what I would do if I found a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot. I know exactly what I would do. And he said, I would take it scientifically to the scientist and show them and get DNA testing and do all of that so that they had no doubt that this was a new species. And I looked at him and I said, that's exactly what I want to do. How do I go about doing it? And I said, would you take it on? And he said, in a heartbeat. So within 20 minutes, he had the skull and started working on it. And then he did his lecture. So the next morning, we met at the Holiday Inn parking lot. I handed over the skull, and he was on his way to the International UFO Conference in Laughlin. And he said, I need to go there. And so I don't believe in coincidences.
Mm-hmm.
That was like that. He left here on a Wednesday or Thursday morning, and he said, we need to go. And we handed it to him because we didn't want to take it on an airplane. So he was driving, and my husband and I came home, and we said, we need to go. We need to be there. We need to hang out. We had passes for Southwest Air. We called and got the last 2 seats on the plane the day before. So we went up there for the weekend. Weird thing, his aunt passed away, so we had to come back. Had her funeral on Wednesday. Got another pass in the mail. By this time, we'd already done some testing at UNLV, found some really crazy stuff, and we were really afraid that the skulls might be taken from us. So we decided that we had to go public at that conference. So at that conference, you're looking at 800 to 1,500 people there. So they let Lloyd present the skull, and we got that pass, and my husband went down, got the last seat on the plane again, and went down, and they went public. And Lloyd said at that conference, he said, if anybody's going to take it from me, I'll let you. I'm not willing to die over this thing. So that's kind of where it was. Now, I don't believe in coincidences. There was some sort of, I can't remember the word, but it happened for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how it all started.
So what's the history of the skull? Do you know where it was? I'm assuming you didn't find it in your backyard. So,
No.
Where was it found, and how did it end up in your possession?
Okay. The story goes, and this is just a story, we have no proof, but the story goes back in the 1930s, a teenage girl here in El Paso went down to Mexico to visit family. And she went to an area, the city, the town or the village at that time was called Delicias, which is in the Copper Canyon region from what I understand. And they were told, do not, bring all the kids together and says, don't go out hiking on your own. Do it in a buddy system, but do not go into a cave or the mine shaft because they are not safe. So what happens is you tell a teenager not to do something. So she went out alone, went into this cave, and she found a complete human skeleton laying on the ground. Complete human skeleton, which was weird in and of itself. But then she looked closer. There was a little mound next to it, and there was something very, very weird coming out of the ground, wrapping around the normal skeleton, and they were like holding hands. And she was like, this is weird, because that was extremely deformed. So the ground was real soft. It was in a cave. So she dug, scooped out the dirt and found a small childlike skeleton, complete. But she did say that everything was different, was deformed. It wasn't like a human child would be. So, not supposed to be there. Really cool stuff. She grabs a basket, she puts it all in a basket and takes it back to the house. She's not supposed to have it, so she didn't know where to hide it, so she hid it behind a tree. Well, that night they had torrential rain. And in the desert, you have flash flooding. So they had some flash flooding, and guess what? It all got washed away. And the next day she went looking for it, and all she could find were the skulls and a little bit of the teeth of of what we call the Starchild. So she recovered those, hid them again, came home, and brought them out when she was in college in Berkeley. She took it to Berkeley and asked them what it was, and they just looked at her and says, put it away and never talk of it again. So that's what she did. She got married to a man who was in the government, and they just kind of thought it was really cool. The best thing they did was they shellacked it. It preserved it.
Oh, so
okay?
That was a good thing?
That was a good thing. It preserved it so that the bone wouldn't continue to deteriorate. Now, the scientists aren't really happy about that, but it worked. So they kept it on their mantle as a conversational piece, didn't know what to do with it. She passed away. When she passed away, my friend was interested in it. However, he was a government person too, and didn't know what to do with it. So he stuck it in a box, put it in his garage. We met, found out that I was the nurse. I was into MUFON and the UFO phenomenon. And he says, well, you're into weird stuff and you're into medical stuff. I want you to look at this. Well, he brought pictures over, and I said, I have no idea what this is. You're going to have to bring me the real thing. And he brought me the real thing. I opened up the box, and there was this thing. And I'd never seen anything like it before. And I says, I have no clue what this is. He said, well, why don't you just keep it and figure it out? But don't tell anybody who I am, because it would possibly affect his income, or the government would, do whatever they do. So I took it, and that's kind of how it happened.
That's how it happened. So what kind of physical anomalies does the skull present? I mean, just on the surface, prior to doing any kind of testing, just what kind of obvious anomalies have you uncovered in it?
There are 28 deformities in the Starchild skull compared to the normal human skull that it was sitting with. It has the same bones that we have. They're just all misshapen, all messed up. That being said, in human babies, you can have one deformity and be okay. You can have two deformities, maybe have a little disability going on there, but you're going to be all right. You'll live. 3 deformities, you might live to 2 years old, but probably not. Anything over that, you don't make it out the uterus. That's where spontaneous miscarriages happen. Our bodies are designed to not have this type of deformity, this many deformities, because it's just going to mess up their lives forever. So that being said, 28 deformities, there's no way it's human. Without any scientific testing, you can just look at it and say, this is not human.
So can you hold the face up so people can listen? So that's just really intense. And actually seeing it in your hands, it is very small.
Yes, it's very, very small. These are the eye sockets.
Are there even channels for optic nerves to go
Yes, there
through?
are. There are, but they're really down low. Let's see if I see where that hole is.
Mm-hmm.
That's really low. Okay? I'm going to show you the normal skull. See how deep that eye socket is?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look really close, I don't know if you can see it. I don't think you can because it's
No,
so
we
deep.
can't.
In the center of the back is where the optic nerve is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that is going to affect our seeing, our peripheral vision, because it's so far back.
Okay, you can sort
Okay?
of see it now. Okay.
Yeah. The Starchild has the nerves are in the bottom, and the eye sockets are so low and so shallow, it's going to have a wider range of view. The peripheral view is going to be so much different.
So you think that it actually formed eyes and they were kind of like bug eyes?
I don't think they're bug eyes because
But
they
you know
don't
what I
have
mean.
eyelids. They're going to be flat.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, there's no way because there's no bridge on the eyes where an eyelid would go into. So it's going to have a flat eye, and it's possibly going to have some sort of shield over that eye to protect it. But
Well,
it's
that's
not going to
kind
be
of
able
bug
to
eye
blink.
like. I don't think
Yeah,
bugs blink.
but it's flat. You know, bug eyes to me, when you say bug eyes, is they bug out.
Right.
So this is going to be a flat eye, and notice how they're not straight back, but they're coming out towards the ear, towards the side of the face.
Mm-hmm.
Does that look like anything that you've heard of before?
Well, I mean, on first appearance, it kind of gives you the idea of like maybe a gray alien.
That's exactly what I thought when I first saw it. When I first picked it up. When I first saw it, I thought, I don't know what that is. Maybe that's where the bottom of the skull is. And then I looked at it, took it up, and actually picked it up, and I'm like, oh no, that's the face. And that's where the skull's at. That's where the neck goes into. Now this is the real skull, so we've cut out parts down here for DNA testing. Okay? And then we cut out this for DNA testing.
Oh, that's a big hole.
Yeah. But it's and this is the last time it's been cut. I'm not letting anybody cut it anymore because I'm attached. It's my baby. And we have enough DNA now that we can duplicate it, and
If
it's
you need.
at the lab.
But it doesn't look like he has he, she. Do we know if it's a male or a female?
That's just it. One of our DNA testing showed that it was a male, that it had a female mother. Now, the very first DNA testing said that it had XY chromosome. The second one said no, it doesn't. The third one said no, it didn't. And the fourth one said no, it didn't. So we don't know what it is. Every test that we've done, the process and the technology has changed enough that we're more accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I got the skull in 1998. The human genome wasn't even completed until 2003. So when we did the first DNA testing in 1999, you really can't say that that was accurate because it was at a teaching hospital. So we all think it was probably contaminated by the students.
Mm-hmm.
So, so whatever that lab, which was Bold, said, we have been able to disprove it later on. Scientific process says you have a hypothesis, then you move out and you try to prove or disprove it. So the first one said it was a male human, and the second one, we disproved it. So we're not being deceptive, we're just telling you the updated information.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people say we're being deceptive, but we're not. We're giving you the latest information we have, which sometimes is saying what we did before isn't right.
Well, and they find that in everything.
It happens all the time. but when it happens in the fringe places, then they think that, well, the first one was right, or that we're fibbing and that type of thing. And so it gets very frustrating on both ends, I'm sure.
So, and look, I still just want to kind of talk a little more about the anatomical features. And so it doesn't really look like it has a nose, or I'm not really seeing a bridge on the skull, particularly.
Well,
I mean, there's kind of, but not.
okay, here's the bridge. So it does have a nose, but it's going to probably be smaller and probably flatter. So a lot of times you'll see pictures that show like just two slits for a nose, but this is going to have some sense of a bridge.
But it's just really high up, I guess.
But it's like ours. Ours starts out right at where our eyes is.
All right, see, now I'm poking around on myself.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people.
Okay.
Feel your body, and then you can see this, and it's like, oh, I can see where that is, but this is still in a different place. Okay? So the eyes are 0.7 inches, and a normal human skull is 2 inches deep. Okay?
Wow, that's a lot of difference.
Where our eyebrows are, that's called a brow ridge. The Starchild doesn't have one. There is no brow ridge here. That's where our eyelids go into. So where are the eyelids at? We don't know. The foramen, which is a hole that all the nerves and the blood vessels that attach to the eye, is lower and more centered. So that's going to tell us that it views things differently, which kind of makes sense if it has a different atmosphere.
Okay.
They found that astronauts who have been up on the space station for more than 6 months, their eyes flatten.
Really?
So, can we say this is from outer space? Can't say that for sure, but it sure could be a possibility. So, I don't know, but it's an interesting thing. Let me see, what else?
Well, one of the things, you know, I guess you would know who this is, Brian Forrester, who does the work with the elongated skulls. And one of the conversations that he and I have very often is, how does the head mount on the spine? You know, because with those skulls, it's like, you know, I can just imagine them, you know, these people walking around like this, or they have massive neck muscles holding their head in the appropriate direction. And so I would assume you've evaluated, you know, where that hole is, you know, where the spinal column connects up, and does that go into an appropriate location, and can you tell the positioning of the head based on that?
Okay. That being said, the first thing we found out is that Starchild has no frontal sinuses, which gives us our tone, which helps us with our voices, but the one thing that most people don't realize is the sinuses in the front of the face helps make our skulls not near as heavy, because our necks are in the very back. So how do we hold up this real heavy front? That's weird. What we know with the Starchild is on the side that it mounts directly in the center, in the middle of the skull.
All right, that's weird.
That is very strange. So, but that's what allows this skull to balance, because there's more. If it's right in the middle, then I'm going to have equal distance on the back versus equal distance on the front.
Can you turn it just a smidge so I can see the eye placement? But it also makes it so that the eye position, if it's in a vertical direction, that he's actually kind of looking down.
Yes.
Naturally.
But with no eyebrow, he can look up. It's not going to change his vision. Actually, he's still going to have better vision, because he's not going to have to lift his head up to see above.
Okay, can't explain that one.
Yep. Can't explain it at all. Now, with the neck being in the center, you would think he had really strong muscles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There is a spot right here where we have on the back of our head. Okay? And if you'll feel on the very back of your head, there is a knot, a bump. That's called the occipital protuberance. For short, we call it the inion. Okay? Everything below that to our spinal cord is muscles.
Right.
And they're 2 inches deep. I'm a massage therapist, so I know these muscles very clearly. This guy has about this much muscle attachment because the back of the skull flattens. So there's no place for the muscles to attach right up in here where you would think it does. It has just, see if I can get it to set, from here to here. From here to here.
And
so
that's
it's
it.
only got less than a half an inch for the muscles to attach. So there's a real weird, how is it holding up this head? And there's a lot of reasons how it does that. Because the thickness, if you can see how thick that is, the bone itself, not the hole, that's 0.3 centimeters.
That's not very
0.3
thick.
millimeters.
Well, how thick is it in a normal skull?
Okay. In a normal skull, can you see that?
That's
about a half an
really,
inch.
That's hugely different.
Okay. And this skull weighs tremendously more than the Starchild. The Starchild weighs 300 grams, 300 to 400 grams depending on the scale. A normal skull without a brain in it is 1 pound.
Like a normal skull without a brain.
With the brain, you're looking at about 12 pounds. So the other thing that's really interesting is that the Starchild has 200 cc's more brain capacity than a normal human.
Adult human?
Than a normal adult
So
human.
it's a smaller skull, but a larger brain capacity.
It's a thinner skull with a larger brain capacity. Look at how wide this is. Okay? Look at how big the frontal part is. It goes all the way back to here. So it literally, in my opinion, could have 3 lobes versus our 2. So, you know, with that much brain capacity, probably a lot smarter than we are. So it's
That's
just
pretty easy.
that's an easy thing, right? But the whole way that it does it is because it weighs so little, and the placement is in the middle of the skull, so that it equals out, it balances the skull. Versus ours, we have to have a humongous amount of muscles to hold our head up because our heads are so heavy. And so we have 2 inches of muscles and this one doesn't. The reason it can do that is because it's so thin and so light. And
Interesting.
it's in the center versus in the back.
Hi, this is Dr. Rita Louise. We hope you've been enjoying the program today. If you'd like to hear more from this guest or other guests we've had on the show, please visit www.justenergyradio.com.